No more approval chasing. Detaching from the narcissist's grip. Welcome back to the Family Roles series Inside School of Soul. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and in this episode, we're dismantling one of the most emotionally addictive patterns that forms inside narcissistic families. The belief that, if you try hard enough, long enough, and perfectly enough, you'll finally earn their approval. You won't. And deep down, some part of you already knows that. But when your first experience of love was conditional, your nervous system doesn't just seek connection, it seeks redemption. This is the trap. You aren't just trying to be loved, you're trying to be proven right. You want your parent or family member to finally say, I see you, I misunderstood you. You were never the problem. And when that moment never comes, you keep running harder in the direction of a reward that was never real. Let's get clear. A narcissistic parent doesn't withhold approval by accident. They do it to maintain psychological leverage. Their approval becomes a dangling carrot, one that keeps you performing, proving, adjusting, and waiting. It's given in small, random bursts, a compliment when you accomplish something useful to them, a gesture of warmth when they want something. But the pattern always follows the same loop: acceptance, followed by invalidation, warmth followed by withdrawal, praise followed by undermining. This is not forgetfulness, it's reinforcement. They've trained you to believe that closeness only happens when you comply. That love is earned through obedience, and that acceptance is a performance metric, not a birthright. And that training doesn't dissolve just because you've grown up. It becomes the operating system behind your relationships, your self-worth, and your exhaustion. In narcissistic systems, children are raised to behave like employees of the parent's ego. Your role is to be a reflection, a resource, or a regulator, not a full person. You're expected to manage their emotions, reinforce their image, and stay within the role that keeps them comfortable. If you try to evolve, separate, or speak a different truth, you're accused of betrayal. This is where approval chasing begins. As a child, it's basic survival. You rely on the caregiver for everything: food, protection, emotional reality. So when love is withheld, you don't assume they're broken. You assume you are. You think, if I were better, they'd love me. If I just explained it differently, they'd understand. If I just achieved more, sacrificed more, stayed quieter, they'd finally approve. This becomes a lifelong loop. And the most insidious part is that it feels like personal failure, but it isn't. You were put in a position no child should ever be in, chasing affection from someone who never had the capacity to offer it unconditionally. Let's talk about what this loop looks like in adult form. It's obsessing over how to word a message to avoid triggering them. It's replaying a conversation with your parent for hours, wondering if you were disrespectful. It's feeling a wave of guilt after setting a basic boundary. It's choosing to share only the filtered version of your life to keep the peace. It's overthinking holidays, birthdays, and updates because every interaction feels like a test you can fail. You're not living in relationship. You're living in a PR campaign, constantly trying to protect their perception of you in the hope that someday that perception will shift. But it doesn't. And that's not because you didn't try hard enough. It's because narcissistic parents are not emotionally invested in understanding you. They are invested in controlling the narrative. The reason this loop is so hard to break is because it's not just about them anymore, it's internal. Even when you reduce contact, their voice still lives in your body. It shows up as self-doubt when you rest, as anxiety when you speak up, as guilt when you say no. Their disapproval was so consistent that your nervous system now treats disconnection like danger even when it's healthy. This is why so many survivors feel conflicted about pulling away. Detachment feels unnatural, not because it's wrong, but because you were never allowed to individuate. Your identity was wrapped around their validation. And now that you're reclaiming your autonomy, every step toward peace feels like abandonment. But here's the truth. Wanting to be seen isn't the problem. Waiting for it from someone who refuses to look, that's the problem. You're not broken for wanting love. You're exhausted from chasing it where it was never available. So how do you stop chasing? First, you name the hook. The hook isn't love, it's hope. Hope that if you do the right thing, they'll change. Hope that if you shrink yourself, they'll meet you in the middle. But hope without evidence is a trap. If they've shown you over and over that they don't listen, empathize, or reflect, believe them. You're not giving up. You're letting go of a fantasy that's keeping you sick. Next, you confront the belief that you are the one who has to change in order to be loved. That is the core of the script. It tells you that if you were just a little better, more forgiving, less emotional, more successful, they'd finally approve. But approval that only comes when you silence yourself is not approval. It's reward for obedience. And the cost is your soul. Begin replacing that belief with a new one. Approval is not the same as love. Approval can be manipulated. Love cannot. Love holds space for difference. Love doesn't require conformity. Love doesn't vanish when you set boundaries. The third step is removing the goalpost. In families like these, the finish line always moves. You got the degree, but they didn't show up. You became a parent, but they criticized your choices. You healed, forgave, communicated, and they dismissed you again. If you're chasing approval, you're playing a game you can't win. And that's the point. Narcissists don't just move the goalpost. They deny it ever existed. So stop running. Let the goal dissolve. You don't need to earn anything. You are already enough. You'll need to practice emotional detachment, meaning you stop interpreting their reactions as measures of your worth. If they go silent, that's information. If they disapprove, that's expected. If they lie about you, that's strategy. But none of it is truth. Their perception is not your identity. And their lack of recognition does not equal your lack of value. This is where a new practice begins, replacing external approval with internal integrity. When you make choices based on your truth, not their acceptance, you rewire your nervous system to seek alignment instead of appeasement. And yes, at first, that feels unsafe. You'll feel guilt, fear, even panic. That's old programming. Breathe through it, speak through it, move through it. Let your body learn that safety isn't found in being liked. It's found in being whole. You'll also have to grieve. Grieve the version of the parent you deserved. Grieve the idea that one more explanation would have fixed it. Grieve the silence after your best attempts. Because once you grieve, you stop rehearsing. You stop rehearsing the conversation, the fantasy, the comeback. You stop trying to be understood by someone who benefits from misunderstanding you. And from that place, you build. You build autonomy. You build relationships where you're loved for who you are, not for how well you manage someone else's emotional reality. You build self-respect that doesn't waver with someone else's disappointment. And you build the kind of life that doesn't orbit around being seen, but around being free. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.